One, I know we haven't met for a little while, so hopefully we won't start with too difficult of a skill for us because we have learned about prefixes, suffixes, affixes. We have learned about this before. It's something I know we did a lot of last year in third grade, and you've also probably seen it back in like second grade, first grade. You've seen it before. Going back to our general knowledge, does anyone know what a base word or a root word is? What do we think?
Base word
Or a root word. They're very similar. Do you know what they might mean?
thinking of a synonym.
Okay. Well, let's look at this poster up here. In the middle, we have the word root. So it says it's the main part of a word that gives the basic meaning of the word. A lot of times they're Latin or Greek. Okay, so in Erla soon, you'll be learning about Latin and Greek roots if you haven't already done that. So if we have a word that's the core, it's the middle of the word. Do we know what a prefix is? Or a suffix? What do you think a prefix or a suffix might be?
Prefix
Well, go ahead and look and then tell me.
meaning, the meaning, prefix meaning.
Okay, so up there it says it's a word part added to the beginning of a root or a base word. It contributes to the meaning of the word. So a prefix is a few letters that we can add on to a word to change its meaning.
It has to be at the beginning.
A prefix has to be at the beginning. So what do we think a suffix is then? Angel?
It's kind of like the prefix, but at the end.
Exactly. It does the same thing that a prefix does, except it comes at the end of a word. So if we look at our examples, let's start over with our prefixes. One that might be fairly familiar to us is re. So if you see re on the part of a word, it means again. So if we have the word replay, it means you play it again. So a lot of times in sports, they'll do a replay. So you can see it happening over and over. Or if you have to review something, we review before a test. Re means again, so we're viewing that material again before we take the test. Yes, Angel.
I have another example.
Okay.
Refresh, to refresh your brain after vacation.
Yeah, or sometimes we have to refresh our computers when they freeze and we click up on that link and we hit enter. It refreshes the page, so it brings up the page again. Okay, so if we see re on a word, it will mean again. Another example over there is over. So if I say, I'm overly tired today, what do we think that means?
Too much. Like, really tired?
Yeah, like you're saying, it's too much tiredness, or I'm really tired. So if I'm overly tired, that means I have a lot of tiredness within me. So that means I'm pretty tired today. Let's look at an example of a suffix. The first one, it gives us able or a bit, or like IBLE instead of ABLE. So that means you're able to do something, or it can be done. So an example of that might, do you guys have an idea of what an example might be?
Or like something else.
Like you're
Please pardon the interruption. We are all clear for testing for today. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Just a reminder that when we do have quiet campus and you're transitioning through the halls to specials or those, to make sure that your students are transitioning quietly. I hope that you all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Angel, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay, so one example of a word with the suffix able might mean, or might be likable. Like, I think, generally speaking, you guys are likable students. That means people are easily able to like you. They can like you pretty easily because you guys are pretty open, like you're nice, you're pretty friendly, you give off good vibes. So that means you're likable. Or if something is avoidable, like getting in trouble is avoidable, that means you're able to avoid it. You can avoid getting in trouble fairly easily by following the rules and expectations. So I know that might kind of be a lot at once. So if we just review some vocabulary quick, we have a base word or a root word, which is the main part of a word. An affix is the general word for prefix and suffix. So an affix is part of a word that changes its meaning. The most important part to remember about a prefix or a suffix is that it changes the meaning or it contributes to the meaning of a word. For example, if I have the word unsafe, what do we think that means?
Not safe.
Yeah,
Not really safe.
not safe, right? We know that un means not. So if something is safe, that means it's good to go. But if it's unsafe, that changes the meaning of the word. So a prefix or a suffix, that means affixes in general, an affix can be either one, changes the meaning of words. And that's what we need to understand. Because as we're reading text, especially as we're going into FSA, we're going to see some big words. So understanding and breaking words down into their roots and prefixes and suffixes can help us better understand a text. Okay? So prefix will always be added to the beginning, and the suffix is always on the end. Both of them change the root or base word's meaning. So let's go through a couple together. First, we need to know a few different prefixes and suffixes because it's going to be hard to break apart a word and figure out if its meaning if we don't know what some of these prefixes or suffixes mean. So I want to give you like 45, just a few seconds to see if you can fill out any of these. If you know what pre or re or miss or un, if you think you know what any of those mean, I want you to go ahead and fill it in on your chart. If you're not sure, you can leave it blank because we will go over it together. But I want to give you a chance to look over some of these and figure out if you might be able to know them on your own. I love that we're at least trying and we're putting forth effort on even if it's just one or two. That shows me that you're trying and you're participating. Maybe about 15 more seconds, and then we're going to go over them together.
One of them are blank.
Yeah, that's just a space between the top and bottom. Okay, so all the ones on top, we have pre, re, miss, on, and then and il. Let's start with pre. If I give you words such as preview or pre-play, maybe I say preheat. What do we think pre might mean? Like if you have to preheat the oven before you're going to bake cookies, what are you going to do with the oven?
Wait, preheated?
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Like do it again?
Are you going to turn the oven on after you bake the cookies?
No, you're gonna turn it off.
Yeah, so what are you going to do then?
Turn the oven off.
How are you going to bake them in a cold oven?
You're gonna turn they're baked, you open the cookies and then turn it off.
I think you forgot to cook them.
Put the heat on.
Yeah, pre means before. You have to preheat the oven before you bake the cookies. You have to get it hot and then you put the cookies in. So pre means before.
Oh, it's the meaning.
Yes,
Did
you're perfect. So pre means before. So if we preheat something, we're going to heat the oven before we need to use it. Or if we're previewing knowledge, or when you preview a movie, you watch the commercial, you see what it's about before you watch the entire movie. That's why they're called previews. So you can see what it's about before you watch the whole thing. All right, next is re. What did we decide? Re. Yep, again. So if you re-watch a movie, you're watching it again.
I was thinking that instead of rewatch, remix.
Remix. If there's a song and they remix it, it means they're making up the song again. They're combining songs and making a new song. They're using it again. All right, the next is miss. Maybe if we misunderstand.
Or like when she was.
Yeah, what'd you say, Julie? Yeah, it means you're doing it, it's kind of like not, or you're doing it in the wrong way. So if you misunderstand, you understand it in the wrong way. Or another would be if you misbehave. If you're misbehaving, you're behaving in the wrong way. So miss means wrong or wrongly. So wrong. It's kind of like, it's very similar to not though. They have very similar meanings.
I
It's
know
wrong what?
Wrong, or you could say wrongly. It depends how you're using it.
I knew meaning of
And what does that mean?
not.
Not. So un means not. Like unfriendly or unequal. All right, next is ear. Like if you're irresponsible, or another one is ill. They mean the same thing, like not, or if it's illegal, it means not. Yeah, so if something is illegal, it's not legal. So un and ear or ill mean the same thing. Same thing for im. So there's extra space. I want you to add in im and in. Like impossible. If something is impossible, it's not possible. Or if something is incorrect, it is not correct. So we have un, ear, ill, im, and in, all meaning the same thing.
Yeah, like invalid.
Invalid means it's not valid. Exactly.
We learned that word in FSA, like
Mhm.
teachers read it.
Yep.
Say,
It might be invalidated. Exactly. So these are all prefixes. So on the side, let's go ahead and write prefixes next to it, because all of those top ones are prefixes. That means they'll come before a word. And then what do you think we'll label the second half?
Suffix.
Yeah, suffixes. So we have both prefixes on the top that come before a word, and suffixes come after the root or the base word. So it might even be helpful if next to your prefixes you write before and suffixes after.
before, after, yes, I heard about that.
Okay, yours are backwards, bud. Just like the prefix pre means before, in the word prefix, it has a prefix. So that's a good way to help you remember that prefixes come before. Because we can see in both prefix and suffix, they have a base or a root word affix. That's because we're fixing these together. Fix means to come together. Like if you fix something, it's coming together. So a prefix is a word that comes before.
Before fix.
Well, before any word really. Like if we have like reheat or overwhelmed or inaccurate, those are all, they come before the root or the base word. So in this case, pre is a prefix. Pre is the prefix, and the word fix is the root or the base. Let's go to the able or able. What do we think that means? We've already touched on this.
Can do.
Yeah, it means you can do it, or you're able to do it.
Like edible.
Yep, edible means you can eat that. So other examples might be readable. So I want to make sure that the text we're using are readable. They're not too high, not too low, not in a foreign language. We need them to be readable. Or your handwriting needs to be legible. That means I need to be able to read it. That's why we have to write neatly.
What about like unable? If we add that and then with able.
Not able.
That means not able. So in that case, able is the root word. It is that base word.
What does it mean like can't do? It means like kind of can't do if you put un.
Yeah, if you're unable, that means you can't do it. You're absolutely right. Okay, meant. This is kind of a tricky one.
Statement.
Well, kind of. Yeah, that's a good example because it's the action of doing something. So if you're giving a statement, you are giving whatever you're saying because a statement is like the written form of what you saw or like is what you're saying.
Wanted?
So say that again.
Like wanted, like you wanted to do that.
Kind of, but this we're like specifically looking at the MENT.
Like when you said
Cement.
something wrong and you meant something else. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like when you said like you're saying something and then you didn't say it. Like you didn't say it
You didn't mean
right
to.
like right on top, but you didn't mean to do it.
That's what I'm
You
thinking.
didn't mean.
The action of.
That's a different meant. That's a word, MEANT. This is more like almost like mint, like almost said with an I. This word down here is meant. Like when you say the wrong thing, I meant to say. This is a suffix that we add on to the end of a word. So for example, like agreement. That means I am agreeing to do something. Or if we reach an agreement, it's the action that's us all agreeing on something. Or if it's like excitement, if we have excitement, that's us having. That's the action of us having excitement within us. That means we're excited. So some people might say there's a lot of excitement in the air. So that's the action of people being excited all around you.
So, meant is like a verb. Because the action.
Yes. Yep. Meant is it takes a verb and it turns it into a noun. But yes, you are right because action, and that's exactly what it is. So if you add meant on the end of a word, it turns it into a noun. It turns it into a
Oh
thing.
yeah, because the word verb is a noun. Jeez.
Yes, you're correct. Okay, the last two, full and less. What do we think one of those might mean?
Playful. Less means love.
Okay, less. So let's go back to Matthew's. Less means low or you're lacking. That means you don't have any of that.
I put not much.
Yeah, not much. Perfect. So less means not much. It could mean, you can leave your low. We can put some synonyms. It could mean low.
Barely.
Yep, barely. Or without. So any of those, or if you want to write down some synonyms, that would be good.
And full means a lot.
Yep, and full would be the opposite. They're antonyms. So full means literally you're full of that.
It's been 20 minutes.
Okay, so make sure we get all of those down. So if we look at full, if something is flavorful, it is full of flavor. It has a lot of flavor. So normally we want our food to be flavorful so it tastes good. If it's flavorless, then that means it's probably pretty boring and pretty plain. Like normal rice or plain pasta is kind of flavorless. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. Or water is flavorless. If we're drinking fruit punch or some type of juice mix, it's probably flavorful because it has a lot of flavor. Yes.
What about artificial?
About what?
Like the word artificial.
Artificial means it is full of fake things.
Like propel.
Mhm.
It has.
Artificial or fake flavors. All right, I want you to go ahead and open up your bag. And there should be some large cards that say suffix, prefix, no affix, and both prefix and suffix.
I had
Empty.
And then you have a bunch of little ones. And then spread the little ones out.
Matrix.
suffix.
So find the big ones, and we're gonna have to put these little ones underneath. So make sure you have space to put them underneath. There you go. So maybe move this up here. Move these ones over there. There you go. Now find the other two big cards.
There's 4 big cards.
Yep, 4 big cards. Let's put them in the order: suffix, prefix, no affix, both.
Suffix, prefix, no affix, both.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at some of our cards. Let's look at reappear. Find the one that says reappear.
Well, that's a
What do we think? Do we think this has a suffix, a prefix, no affix, or both?
Prefix.
Okay, and what's the prefix?
Re.
Okay, so let's go ahead and circle re on it and then put it under prefix. Awesome. Let's look at knowledgeable. Find the card that says knowledgeable.
that would be suffix. It has able.
Yep, right there. You got it? Okay, so Angel says it has a suffix and the suffix is able. What do you think, Julian? Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree.
Okay, why?
I think it's prefix and suffix.
You think it's both? Okay, so what do we think the root or the base in here is? What do we think the main word in here is?
Able.
Well, that's either a
Able,
prefix or a
knowledge, able.
suffix.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. The main word here is knowledge. Okay, knowledge is how much you know. So knowledge is the base or the root. So let's underline knowledge. That means knowing. So then we have able left over. Julian, is able at the beginning or the end of the word? End. So let's circle able. And if it's at the end, if it comes after the base word, then it's a suffix. So Angel, you were correct. So that goes in our suffix column. Let's look at empty. Find the card that says empty. Let's find a root word in here or a base word. Look at your card.
T.
Is T a word on its own? No, so what's a word on its own? Is empty a word? Like if I say empty, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so underline that.
Whole entire word in it.
Is there anything before or after?
Before.
It should be no
Is there anything before or after what we have underlined? No.
It should be no affix.
So no affix. There's nothing before. There's no prefix. There's no suffix. So it tried to trick us. Let's look at sleepier. Sleepier. I want you to see and do it on your own. See if you can find a word that you know within sleepier and underline it.
Sleep.
That's not on your own, silly boys. But yes, sleep. We can find the word sleep. And then what do we have at the end?
Here.
Yeah, so we can circle that.
Suffix.
You got it, Julian. Suffix. Let's look at irresistible. I want you to see if you can find a word within there and underline it. See if there's a little word within that big word. Did anyone find anything? What'd you find, Matthew?
Irresist.
Okay. Did anyone find anything different?
I found irresist.
What does irresist mean?
Invincible.
No.
So both of you found able as a suffix. Have we ever seen the prefix IR? Is that in our charts anywhere?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it would be both. It would
Yeah.
be like a prefix. Oh, yeah,
exactly. This one has both. So make sure you circle both the prefix and suffix and underline. Here the base word is resist. Resist means kind of keeping something away. So here, if you have irresistible, means you're not able to resist it. So to me, chocolate is irresistible. If I see a piece of chocolate, I'm eating it. There's no way I can just let it sit there. Let's look at cable. Is cable a word on its own?
Yes.
No. Yes.
Yeah, like a string or
No,
a
it's
wire could be cable
Right.
or
It's-
cable TV.
Has no suffix.
Yep, so no affix, nothing before, nothing after.
And
This is easy.
Then unimpressed. Un
Prefix.
is a prefix.
prefix. Impress.
Impress.
In.
No.
Yeah.
But in this case,
It's a prefix.
impress is the word. So sometimes it's going to try to trick us.
Wait,
Because
even if it was-
sometimes there's words that have those letters already in them. In this case, impressed is one of them.
Wait. M.
It's supposed to be in
and
there.
M and then pressed.
But in this
Prefix.
case, im does not count as a prefix because impress means to kind of show off for someone. So in this case, it's just that un.
Prefix.
Prefix. Awesome.
So 2, 2, 2, 1.
Exactly. 2, 2, 2, 1. Go ahead and put you can either leave them out if you want to use them as a reference and maybe just slide them to the side, or you can put them back in your bag. You might want to consider leaving them out quick though. And then I'm going to let you guys do a little bit of online practice. So leave this up for now, and then we'll look at which one we need to click together. So it should have a large list of different activities. Are we all on 4th grade language arts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So then I want you to find on the right side where it says prefixes and suffixes. You might have to scroll down. And then it says XX1. Identify base words, prefixes, and suffixes. I want you to click that over here, and then XX1 under. You might have gone too far. Okay, and then it brings up different questions. Like for example, my first one says, "What is the suffix in tearful?" Now I need to remember suffix comes at the end. I can break tearful apart into tear and full. So on my example, here's mine. Mine says, what is the suffix in tearful? I choose full, submit. And then it tells me if it's right or wrong, and I can go to the next one. So we all have different ones, So I want you to go ahead, and then on the right, notice how it keeps track of your score. So I'm going to give you,
I got it correct.
awesome, so keep going. We can go up to 20. I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Wait, what? Review?
So if I got it wrong,
Yep, so if you get it wrong, it tells you what you could have done to get it right.
But I hit re.
Well, what was the question?
What is base word?
Yeah, so we needed to remember the base word is the main part of the word.
Oh, come.
So just remember that for next one. But I'm glad you guys are taking the time to look at the explanation.
So maybe I got 6.
Yep.
No. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Suffix and being prefix of misunderstand.
Yes.
Prefix.
I got 2 right.
Good.
I got 2 right.
Questions answered.
Brilliant.
I did 4.
Of rejoin.
Yes. Suffix and basis. Is that one wrong? I only got 1 wrong.
So did I. I got 1 wrong. I got 16.
Misinformed.
17 actually.
Now I get this.
We're getting it now.
so the suffix is at the end of the word. The prefix
Wait,
is
what?
at the prefix is at the base word is meant.
You have reached your daily practice limit. Become
All right.
The suffix
I only did 10.
It might it's because it might just have that many. So we got 10 questions,
I did 20.
and your score was 64. All right, what is yours?
I'm still going.
So you got to that. Your score is, you got to 20?
Mhm.
All right.
Matthew, I'm still
Let's go.
60.
6. All right, one more.
So
Come on.
base word.
I got 64.
I
and
want my
only did
day.
10.
All right. So this is also something you can practice at home if you want to just jump on between TV commercials or between your video games. This is something free you can do at home. Any of those skills. So the last thing I'm going to have you do today is I want you to try to fill this out.
Oh, so they time you.
Yeah, it times you, and that's part of your how it has that SMART score. The quicker you answer a question, the more points you get for it. So it's kind of like when we do Kahoots. It's kind of like the same thing. All right, so independently, I want you to go ahead and fill this out.